post these, allow us to call it a coffee chart, depending on what time it is. Where I am, it is 6 p.m. So I would call it a tea chat. And I'm sure where Deb is, it's a morning coffee to make sure that she's up and running. And also where Bob is, it's more like the 4 p.m. snack. And so it will be running around those formats. Allow me to welcome everybody and kick us off with a reflective exercise, because I'm sure we are all coming to from different spaces. So we would just want to help each other to narrow down to this space. And I've realized, especially if you've had a full work day like me, what helps focus sometimes is just do a stretch exercise for the brain. And so I am sharing one stretch exercise here. So I have posted it on the chat. And it says, without using your name, your title, your role, your position, your credential, your qualification, your gender, or your location, kindly tell us who you are in one sentence on the chat. Shoot. Let's see which brains work fast, which ones work slow. We are all welcome. I will repeat without using your name. Oh, wow, Liz. Okay, if I was hiring, I would look for you. That was pretty fast. Thank you for the authenticity. Keep them coming. Lovely, lovely. I see we are up and our brains are working super fast. I will go to the second exercise. And if you're still on the first one, please keep thinking about it. Once upon a time, someone told me life does not depend on speed. It depends on calculation. And so feel free to take your time. The second one is, if your career journey were a movie, what would the title be? Kindly drop it in the chat. Love what is coming out. She who dances like water, following my heart. The explorer, not afraid to leap, a seeker of meaning. Small improvements are fine too. Awesome. I love this group. There's just an amazing diversity that fuels me up. Now let's get to the real deal. If you will, those were energizers. And because I can see we have the appetite, now let's get to the real deal. Imagine your career as a garden. What is flourishing in that garden? What needs nurturing? What needs pruning? And what's ready to be harvested? that might need some time to just take in a breath and think. And so I'll allow us to think through. And if anything comes to mind, just drop it in the chat. So if it's flourishing, just say flourishing. What is it? If it is nurturing, say nurturing. What is it? If it needs pruning, say pruning. What is it? And if it needs to be harvested, say harvested. What is it? Great, great. Thank you. Amazing, amazing thoughts. We will sit with those and feel free to keep thinking through that as we go through the session today. And so, as I said, we will be doing a coffee chat, talking to each other about our journey with career. And allow me to welcome Bob and ask Bob, what's your story? What was your call to coaching?
I wasn't remembering to turn the mute button off. So I worked in IT, IT in telco for 20 plus years. I'd seen life coaches had come a thing at a point, but that never really appealed. And I'd been in teams, part of teams, I'd led teams, built teams, and I was always the hungry one who wanted a bigger team and more responsibility and to run bigger projects. And I wanted recognition and I wanted to be seen as the best. And that funneled through from when I first started wanting to be the best project manager, ultimately to wanting to be the best team leader. And it's very, I can be very transparent now about it now. I wanted to be the best. So I was in Vodafone at the time when I'd been a mentor for probably 10 years with different types of employee. And then coaching became a thing and I had an interest in it. Thought, yes, this could help me. Again, adding a new string to my bow, as it were, a new skill. So I went for it. I'd had some challenges with the team. I was moving teams. I was taking over a team in a foreign country. So I thought now was the time to have this extra training and to take what was being offered. And it just kind of clicked really, really quickly that this was something that I felt I was quite good at, but now there was a process and an understanding behind these, we call them the competencies in the ICF, but behind the kind of process that we used that would allow me to be better. And yeah, that was the kind of journey to coaching to the point where I was coaching in Vodafone probably 6 or 7 years. And then left, and then now I coach full time.
Wow, thanks, Bob. I sort of would like to hear, so there was the longing. Was there a specific pain that moved you to pursue the longing, if at all?
Not really pain, just a really strong desire to be the best. And I needed to know more stuff. I needed more skills. I didn't know what I needed, but if there was something there that might help, I was willing to try it. I've always been quite good at kind of accepting new things and change. It was one of the reasons why I was quite a good project manager and good in an organization, because I could articulate the change well, I could communicate the change well, I could show people the impact of not moving forward or not taking the step. I was good at that. So coaching was kind of, it was like a natural fit. It became less about the IT and the solutions and much more about the person. And it wasn't about me this time. It was about certainly while I was in corporate, it was about my team members. There was coaching opportunities, but I didn't really take them up. It was much more about, could I coach other people and make my teams better? And that's what I was doing.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. Coaching became about other people, and those people were your team.
Yes, and it was working. It was good.
Lovely, lovely. Deb, how does your story build onto that, or is it a different path? Let's see the beauty of it.
Well, I've been in the insurance industry in the United States for about 30 plus years. And when I say that my career could be described as she who dances with water, I just kind of flowed with what the next thing seemed to be. As a lifelong learner, I would just be after 2 years, I'm tired of this. I want to learn something more. The human brain's desire to learn more manifested itself in my career. And I had been working as a director of HR within the insurance industry. And as I listened to all these leaders with their pains and struggles that they were having, I'm like, well, it seems like we have an issue with self-awareness. And if we could, as an insurance professional, risk manager, I'm always looking for the root cause. And I was like, oh, the root cause is a lack of self-awareness. If we could build that, then a lot of our struggles and complications got escalated to me could be better managed. And that got me learning about coaching. And then I found when I became the president of an agency that as the organization was going through some significant transformation, that it pulled more and more from me. And I had to learn how to coach people through their emotions because I understood emotions, but I hadn't always embodied my own. So at the same time that I was transforming an organization, I was having to transform myself. And at the tail end of that process, I took a year off because I was burnt out, because I was the change agent, the coach, and the person that was implementing the transformation. And that's when I found Awaken. I started working with a career coach going, okay, I'm trying to figure out what's my ikigai? Where am I going to land? What am I doing? What's my calling? How do I use the gifts that I was given and apply it in the workplace? And one of my career coach said, you should really look into coaching. All your testing suggests that coaching might be where you want to land. So that's what I did. I started doing that and then did some individual coaching for a bit. And I realized this was great, but I'm a people person. I mean, I really love people as much as I'm an introvert. I really love creating and co-creating with other people. So I went back to work into an organization, and that's where I'm doing today. Sorry, my dog is scratching right at my feet, so I don't know if you all can.
You also love dogs in addition to loving people.
Right.
Thanks, Deb. And you speak about such a clear awareness of self. And I'm wondering, did you come into coaching with that?
I think just prior to COVID, I had made some significant realizations in my life. I had been doing vision boards for years, and I kept looking and I was like, something's missing, why can I not bring this thing that has been repeatedly on my vision board? Why can't I make this happen? And then I realized, oh, I have to make some significant changes in my life to bring that about. So I started doing that. And as I did that, it brought more awareness to me of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So then as I started to work with other people and coach them, then I started to go, oh, that's what it is. We're stuck in the cave, if you will. And the pain can confuse us because sometimes we don't know what we don't know what we don't know. And that's the trick. And so I think I brought that with me. I mean, I've always been spiritually inclined. I wanted to be a nun when I was a kid, but I was like, oh, but I'm not Catholic, so I don't think that can happen. I mean, it's, which is, an obstacle that I created on my own, well aware of that. But I think I brought some of it to that. But what coaching did was allow me to have more structure and understanding of what I was doing in order to better support others. Because I didn't have a structure. I just was being. Does that make sense?
Yes, of course it does. You were just being you.
Right.
And I love the fact that you say, we don't know what we don't know. And yet you came with what you knew and something that was calling you to actualize what was in your vision board. So how did coaching provide your structure? What was that process like?
Well, it was joining Awaken, and quite honestly, it was getting comfortable being uncomfortable. As an introvert and someone who has a cognitive function that I process a lot in my head, it was recognizing there were other people like me, that I wasn't too sensitive, that I just took in a lot of information, and that there were other people that also take in a lot of information. And that it made me feel less alone. And so in the coaching process, it was creating some of the structures and understanding, oh, active listening. That's what it is to be present. Oh, that's why people talk to me wherever I go, because I'm listening to them share a piece of themselves. And so coaching helped me put a framework around what I was doing.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Put a framework. And I also hear name the things that you were doing.
Yes, that's a very good way to say it. Yes.
Awesome. And that resonates with my story, Deb, because I found myself during COVID, actually, right at the onset of COVID, I knew I didn't like my job. And so it was time to switch my job. And I didn't know what I needed to switch to because I was aware there was an unmet need within my system. But what is that need and where will it be met? And I couldn't answer that question. And so I pretty much just followed what I would say God's leading to the next job. And shock on me at 40, I needed to move from the development space to the corporate space. And I remember a friend of mine asking me, are you trying to commit suicide? Who does that? And I thought, listen, if it kills me, it kills me, but we need to do something different. And that's the time I was so aware of my need. 3 months into the new job, I was ready to quit. And I met Awaken. I had met Christy before, but I hadn't interacted with what Awaken was. And I think one of the things that stands out for me is that Awaken is the reason I didn't quit. I had done coach training in a different school, but it was stuck in my head. And I just couldn't move that information to what I was going through. And when I spoke to Christy, she told me, step in and do our course. And I did the all-in-one coach training. And the stuff moved from my head to my heart. It moved from competencies that are to be done, and it became convictions that are to be lived out. And I think that transition for me, therefore, immediately told me I would love to have a coaching practice, but I can have it in my job. And so building onto where we reached with Bob, I loved what you said. It wasn't a pain, it was a desire. And the way you spoke about the desire, it almost came out with the same intensity that I would name to the pain. What was your journey like once you followed that desire and came into Awaken and coach training?
So it was quick. I think I was given an opportunity to leave a role that I'd wanted to leave for some time, and I took it. And I thought, what am I going to do now? And I looked at my skill set. I looked at what I could do, what I needed to earn. And I took all those factors in, and I said the fundamental thing was I said I'm only going to do what I enjoy doing. And in the last 20 years, what have I enjoyed most? And it was the mentoring and the coaching in particular, because I'd worked with some really good people, some graduates that did a lot of work. And I thought I'm going to be a coach. I was lucky in where I was in, there was already someone from Awaken there who I could talk to, and she gave me some bits of information and said, can you go and find out where you want to do your studies? So I looked at the various agencies or schools and chose Awaken. I had a chat in the May. I left my job in the June. I started with Awaken in September. So I had summer off. A lot of my colleagues said that only I would be so lucky to time my leaving right at the beginning of one of the best summers we'd had, and it was very nice. It was a lovely 2 or 3 months, and then it started. So I started doing some of the online work that Awaken kind of made available to me. I did the course, started in September. Obviously you have to start building up hours. So I started reaching out to people that I thought might entertain working with me as a coach. They knew me from before. And I don't know, luckily looking back, everything worked out, but I also signed up for the group coaching course that Awaken ran in, not quite in parallel, because you don't normally get to do it in parallel as I understand, but I was allowed to. They let me in. And so I started that the sort of middle of October, completing both in December. My company started officially on the same day I started with Awaken, so 1st or 4th of September. And by the end of that year, that was it. I'd been through the course. I still had my ICF accreditation to finish with the mentor coaching and all of those elements. But it was, this is what I want to do now. How do I go about achieving that? Create an action plan, sign up for the courses, do the courses, start the business. And I do look at it and think it's been incredibly lucky. I always say that first, but I've also worked incredibly hard. I've worked with some startups, I've worked with some individuals and some career coaches. I'm very much focused on businesses. I've gone through all of the experiences that you have as a new business, and I'm still going through them. You know, how do you set up your insurances, your bank details, your marketing? How do you find customers? All of these things. But it's like I put on my film title, it's been incremental changes, and I'm quite happy with that. How do I keep this moving forward? How do I, I've got quite big ideas for my company and what I want it to be when I finish. And how do I keep moving in that direction? Read a lot of books, worked with coaches, worked with customers. You learn constantly. We talk about having a coaching mindset or beginner's mind. It's one of the things I like most. Nearly every conversation I have with a client, I can learn from it as well. I love that I get to see my clients change and grow, and I get nice comments and all those things. But it's, there's two sides to it now. There's the business side, and what do I need to do to continue to grow the business, and then there's the client side, and I tie them very closely. I don't think the ICF kind of tries to separate it, but I do look at, in the same way I did when I was working, my success as a coach is going to be dependent on how well I coach, how my clients work with me. Most of my clients have come back from feedback so far, so it's obviously working. If I didn't have those clients coming from feedback, I would have a smaller client base, and that would not be good. So it's the journey has what we've been doing. It's over 18 months. It doesn't feel like 18 months. It's been a flash, but nearly all of it has been 100% enjoyable. From finding new clients and working with associates and meeting new people, 2 of whom are here, which is quite nice. It's just been great. That's how I would describe it.
Wow, Bob, 18 months. That was just like a flash, and it's been great. Looking at the manager you talked about, who was a really good manager, and now who you are today with what you know and the 18 months experience, is there anything you would have done differently as that good manager?
It's one of the, yeah, that's a really good question. I think I would have loved to have done the coaching thing earlier. And when I was younger in my career, the success of my team was based on how good I was as a leader. And there was a lot of emphasis on me being good at my job, but enabled everyone else to be good at their job. From a coaching perspective, once you put it, it's all about the client. It becomes all about them being good at their job. And actually, I could be terrible at mine. The feedback would be poor and I would be annoyed, but everything would still get done and probably better. That would be the shift, but you can't tell a young person it's not about you. That's something that comes with age. But yeah, so the intentions were always right. The individuals came first. One of the reasons why I did well was because I did build good relationships. People trusted me. I was I was always true to my word, and I kind of look at that as maintaining presence. If I said I was going to be somewhere for a meeting, then I would be there. I would normally be on time. Very rarely would I be late. So a lot of those things that we talk about as the coaching requirements, the skills that we have were there. I just had a different angle on it now, or have a different angle on it now to how I did then. And you can almost map it, so if you take the individual, giving them the time and the space, creating the trusted environment, creating having the presence to listen and allow them to feel listened to, but also for them to then be aware of what they need to do to be better at their job, to achieve what they want to do, whatever it might be. It doesn't matter if it's a coaching conversation or a leadership conversation. It really does map. And then you have that growth element, so that your team member or whoever it is has gone through all of those things, and you've provided them the opportunity to do that, or you've partnered with them to give them that opportunity, and then the growth comes, and then you go, aha. And that's lovely for the individual. It's lovely for me as a coach. And yeah, if I'd had 10 more years of that, that would have been great. But I don't look back at these things too hard. It's something I've learned, I've moved on with. It's a different style, a different approach. Hopefully I'm still me here somewhere.
You're still you here somewhere. And I'm thinking, you don't look back, you're looking forward. And I love that. Looking at a client who would come to you and they're in the career space. They're not quite managing people, but they want to improve their individual performance. How would coaching be of help?
I have had clients where this has been the case, and the coaching normally comes from allowing them to see what they're doing today, and giving them that moment of reflection. How am I performing today? Because we all have I'm the best, or if I can just do this, then I'll be better, depending on what career you're in, I'm sure. But where I was, there was always a very competitive edge to it. Giving someone the opportunity, and I can think of one individual that I coached for some time, giving them the opportunity to see exactly where they were and why they were in the position they were in and why they weren't getting what they wanted, to allow them to take a moment and then understand what did they need to put in place to again facilitate that growth or just make that change. It was incredible, and the end of that client relationship was fantastic because it all ended brilliantly. But the benefit was them. The question that you asked, the benefit was simply the fact that they had the opportunity to see what they were doing today against what they thought they should be doing, and then tweak both to allow them to get where they wanted to go.
Wow. Allow me to call you a life giver, because being able to enable someone to see what they're doing today as an entry point into what they want to be doing, I think that is a gift that I would call life. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Talking about giving life, I'm thinking, Deb, you were very aware after coach training that you didn't want to run your own practice. And you decided to transition to something that you resonated with, which has got you to an organization where you're now writing your job description. And I'm aware we have people here who are thinking, seeing the competencies, right, what do I do with this? How do I marry business and the skills? And how do I even start a new career? What's that story?
Fortunately, I tried a different way of looking for my next position than I had in the past. I mean, I'd been in my role and kind of grown through the organization for 15, 17 years. So I hadn't had to look for a new role in a long time. And my career coach suggested that I not do the submitting resumes around. And I just started telling people that knew who I was, what I was kind of looking for as my next challenge. And someone that I trusted hooked me up with the CEO of the organization with whom I work. And we immediately clicked. The role that I was brought into wasn't necessarily the best fit for me and my skill set. It did appeal to my problem solving, which was, how do we get more efficient? How do we remove some of the obstacles and, create more flow within the organization? But what we really recognized, and kudos to the CEO, was that she was really trying to build a team of empowered, autonomous individuals that used critical thinking, that had work-life balance. I mean, she has a very clear vision of how she wants the employee to have an experience and then how that will benefit the clients. So as we've evolved in my role, we've now recognized that, okay, we've grown to a certain point, so we can hire somebody to manage the role that I wasn't quite a fit for. And we brought strength finders into the organization as well, and started using that as a tool to shift from the negative mindset of somebody's out to get me, I can't do this, to more of a growth mindset of these are my strengths, how do I lean into them? And when I was actually hired, they said, we need somebody to come in and love us, because we know we can do this, but we don't know how. And I was like, oh my God, I'm being hired to be a mom. And as a mother of 4, I was like, oh, I'm qualified for this job. And so I have learned now that by just being honest about who I am and what my skill sets are and how I partner with everybody I meet, connectedness is my second strength. And the team recognized it. They recognized my soft skills that I learned and developed more as part of the coaching. And I just keep saying, you can learn these skills. You can be an active listener. Let me model it for you.
Wow. That's bold. That's courageous. Let me model it for you.
Right. And I think that has been, right before we got on, we were talking about I'm an introvert and I've had to learn to hold the discomfort in my body and take action anyway. Like right now, my stomach is roiling and I'm having to do my soft belly breathing and do all of my practices in the moment to be as open as I'm being with everybody. And I've learned that if I call that out while I'm in the midst of it, that by me being courageous, I can help other people find a way to courage.
Wow. I love that connection, that you are here because you've been hired to nurture and to love others, but you can't give what you don't have. And so you're having to do it within you so that you can extend what you've received within to the others.
Right.
So how has coaching, therefore, allowed you to embrace this new way of being, revealing this is who I am?
That's a really interesting question. My dad, who's an 83-year-old gentleman, he said, "So what are you doing now? Are you a counselor?" And I said, "No, I'm not a counselor." And I was like, "How do I describe this to a man who that's not his world?" And he goes, "Oh, are you teaching people to do what you learned how to do?" And I said, "Yeah, essentially, I've learned a different way of being. I've learned a different expression of love
Mhm.
that I think the coaching skills, as I think about it, it is integrity. It's learning how to be coherent within yourself and how you show up. And that's hard to do, I think, right? As unmasking in front of people.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I've done it, is just kind of said, okay, well, I'm just going to do it. I'm an experiential learner and I'm getting my ass kicked sometimes. Oh, so sorry. I shouldn't have used that word, but sometimes it hurts.
Yeah.
And I'm
Sometimes it has.
doing it anyway.
Wow. And what's the impact of that for you and for the organization when you show up authentically and in congruence?
The feedback I've gotten is that by me showing up authentically, it gives other people the permission to show up authentically. So then we've reduced our conflicts because we've made conflict okay. But instead of being, toxic conflict, it's conflict with an eye towards resolution and relationship repair and maintenance.
Mm. You're giving permission. So by giving yourself a permission, then you have extended permission to everybody else. And so we can fight and we can repair. And you're loving them the way they invited you to love them.
Yes. Yeah.
Well done, Deb. That's amazing. Switching back to you, Bob, what has been your impact and how has coaching helped you expand as a person?
It's been my impact. So I would like to think I'm a better person as a coach, running my own business as I am now, around my family and my friends. I don't bring the level of stress is home that I used to. So that's from a personal perspective. But the impact that I see really is with my clients and the don't like the word journey, but what you that time you spend with them, from the first interaction of explaining what we do, how it works and why it works, to the kind of, especially in the UK where it's not as common as it is in the States, that kind of almost non-believer. And then you say, well, I'll work with you and I'll show you how it works. And there's been a couple of sort of smaller clients that have been very keen just to grow their presence and their brand and their company. And the two local people to me, I see them regularly, even though I don't work with them anymore. And we chat and we talk, and they tell me how they're doing, and it's great. So from a local perspective, the impact of me as a coach is, a small part. There's a small part that I think I've helped them. There may be nothing to do with me, because we sit and, they come up with the ideas, they come up with the changes, they say where they are, where they want to go. So you could say it's nothing to do with the coach, but I think there's a little bit in there. And then some of the bigger clients takes a lot longer to get that level of impact, or any impact, where you spend quite a long time working out what the goals really are, what the needs really are. Then you maybe change them. I've worked with one client for actually the entire time they were part of my sort of initial paid hours with the ICF, and the impact with them over the time has been great, but sometimes it's not as quick. It's harder to work in bigger companies than it is to work in smaller companies. So the impact varies. And I think that's what I love about it, is that you can help someone who's looking for a job, really wants to be back in a workplace, to kind of remodel their CV and change their approach, like you said, Deborah, to looking at how they find work or where they want to work. And you can help there, or you can help with the company that wants to have its own premises, and you see them in their own premises. And it's so varied, and it's so, as I said, it's so great. The impact is different every time, but it is with, as I said earlier, it's with the individual. So I'd like to think that's a little bit to do with me.
Wow. And that impact that starts with the individual and then cascades to small and big organizations, Bob, I think I resonate with that a big deal. And the bit that you raised, which is an important strand to pull here, is the patience with the process. Because there are things that will just go like that, and there are things that will take time. And I would say my journey has taken time. I mean, it started like a breakthrough 2020. I knew, now I'm not quitting. I know how to do this. But when I finished the training, when the fan hit the road, the pressure was so much. I mean, through the second year and the third year, I literally felt like everything I had learned about coaching just flew out of my head and disappeared. When I got myself into the corporate, I would call them corporate wars of who's right and who's not right. And I need to show up with a business case, and I need to justify why I should have a budget. And to what you said, Bob, large organizations are a different thing. I had learned to be in small organizations. The culture of you need to speak up, you need to be visible. It almost felt like you need to step on others so that you can be tall enough. And wondering, how does that align with the coaching competencies? And so it went back to, who am I and what do I do? And one of the things I've appreciated is that those competencies, once ingrained, they're somewhere. They're just waiting for an opportunity to show up. And I feel like that's what has happened in the last 2 years. I thought to myself, I'm done with this competition. I'm done with this culture. And coaching for me is not just a profession, it's a lifestyle. And I want to show up as a coach in all my relationships. I want to show up with those values in my marriage, in my parenting, and in my workplace. And it was amazing, because as soon as that switch happened in my mind, I could tell a rest. And I could tell the confidence to just show up in meetings, in big steering committee meetings, as myself, And I would bring my vulnerability and be authentic as a coach. And I say, this I know, this I don't know. I started owning up the coaching mindset, saying, I'm sorry I offended you. I apologize. That language is not common in the corporate world. You need not just be right. You need to be seen to be right, and you need to push your point, even when you know so well it's not right. And I thought, no, I want to get to that space of learning to actively listen and not listen just to give a feedback, but listen to understand. And I noticed that started equipping me to ask powerful questions, not to demonstrate how much I know, but to facilitate growth. And what that has resulted to is I actually got a promotion that I didn't anticipate and that I wasn't even looking for. And I think it aligns to what you talked about, Bob, that corporates are looking for leaders who can lead from within. And maybe swinging it back to you, leading from within. What's the difference between your common leader and the leader leading from within?
I think probably the easiest way for me to describe it is to look at the then and now. So I talked about even the leaders that genuinely looking out for their team and want their team to be successful. If when I was motivated by my success being the key outcome, I could have been any one of any number of leaders, all looking to do the same thing, all looking to score highly on the NPS registers or the management surveys, but be successful and achieve, what my job was. But the change came from the looking at the success of the team as the first point, and the fact that their success would actually be my success in its own right. Because we were a team. We all had the same objectives. Mine might have been slightly different from the day-to-day objectives of the engineers or the testers or whoever. But if they weren't successful, I wasn't going to be successful. If they were all successful, I was successful in my own right. And that switch of looking and putting them first, what did they need? What was stopping them from doing their day jobs? What did they need to talk about that maybe they didn't feel they could? A lot of the problems at work are not necessarily work related. So being able to take that time with a team member and understand that whatever it was they might be going through, parents getting older, children being naughty, those type of things, and just being that person that they could talk to, that once they left that conversation, they went back to the job feeling a little bit lighter. That was where I would like to think, and I suppose I'd have to go back and ask some of my old team members, that's where my change was. And that's the difference between the sort of being a leader and leading from within, if you like.
Wow, thanks, Bob. What would your parting shot be? What would you say to the rest of us?
I think coaching as a leadership style, if I, as I said before, if I'd had that 10 years earlier, I would have been a much better leader much earlier on. From creating space to the trust, you can have all of these things individually, but when you put all of those competencies together, and that, like you said, Joanne, about the showing up as a coach and not as a boss or a line manager, but that would be I would change it. I would spin it on its head. I would have seen myself as a coach 10 years before, and not just the team lead or the program manager or whatever the title was at the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Bob. Really appreciate that. Deb, coaching as a leadership style. What's your parting shot on that?
Letting people see your becoming is letting them see, and you said it beautifully, I think, is admitting what you know and what you don't know. And and being okay with not knowing everything, because the more I know I don't know a thing. And Bob also said, you know, the beginner's mind, I think really shifting to, I don't have anything to prove. I know who I am. I know what value I'm bringing. And it's, if somebody else doesn't see that, that's not my problem. I can love them through that, or we can love separately. That's okay too.
Wow, I can love them through that, or we can love separately. I like that. Thank you so much, Deb. Amazing. Our time is spent, and it's helpful for me to hear your stories. And I always love the insights that come through story. And all of us here have a story. And I think I would want to leave us with a question of what would it look like to adopt coaching as a leadership style, and leave all of us with that to think. And at this moment, thank you, everyone, and allow me to turn back the hosting to Emma to close for us. Thank you, Deb, and thanks so much, Bob. It was amazing to have this conversation with you.
Yeah, thank you both.
Thank
all.
you. Thank you to everybody.
Yes, I echo that. Thank you, amazing speakers, sharers, storytellers. It was really inspiring listening to your stories and each of the insights that you brought. So thank you so much, and thank you, because we have nothing if we don't have listeners. So thank you for everybody who listened and practiced their listening skills. What we'll do is we'll follow up with an email thanking you and sharing a link to the recording. And if you have any questions, just drop them to the community care line, communitycare@awakencoaching.com. Thank you so much.